Set in 19th century Italy, a group of nuns are hiding dark and sinful secrets inside a secluded convent. One day, Sister Clara is stunned after she encounters their handyman Silva, walking in the halls. Since attention to men is considered sinful, the nun heads to an altar and prays to God to seek forgiveness. Then, she proceeds to offer a solemn prayer to Mary's statue, but she's disturbed after she hears a non-religious tune playing. Unbeknownst to her, a group of nuns is accomplishing their errands while they dance to a lively tune. Two nuns are committing intimate acts inside the confessional, whereas another one is performing a yoga routine, a way for them to indulge their worldly desires. Suddenly, Abbess Flavia Orsini enters the church, and she's enraged at their display of indecency. She reprimands the nun for playing a forbidden piece on their religious premises and confiscates her violin. A struggle ensues between the pair as the nun refuses to surrender her instrument. As a result, the violin propels away from them, and Flavia uses this opportunity to intimidate the nun by saying that she'll notify her parents of her behavior. The nun, who's fueled with emotions, voices that she's unafraid of her parents and even resorts to threatening to end her life. Before things take a darker turn, the other nuns surround and assist her outside of the church. Following this, Clara heads to the library and reports to Sister Lucretia that her aunt has dealt with their sisters. She emphasizes that the other nuns have turned their church into a cabaret with the music and dancing they've performed. At that moment, a nun enters the room and informs Clara that Flavia is summoning her. Lucretia believes that her aunt needs her moral support in dealing with their sisters, so she gladly sends her outside. She senses Clara's worry, so she assures her that she'll continue their embroidery task for her. Once Clara leaves, Lucretia's lover proceeds to emerge from under their seat, and the pair makes love. Meanwhile, Flavia commands Clara to keep practicing their religion and avoid becoming deviant like the other sisters. Clara assures her aunt that it won't happen, because it's her own desire to be in the convent, much to the abbess's delight. Now, Clara asks her aunt a favor. She must allow her to visit the church at any time so that she can pray whenever she can't go to sleep. The abbess is further delighted with her niece's dedication to their religion, so she grants the permission. Moments later, Flavia heads to the library to search for Lucretia, but she's surprised to find her making love with a man. The enraged nun confronts the stranger about his identity, but he refuses to disclose any information as he's in a rush to flee. This leaves Lucretia to face the abbess's wrath alone, but the nun keeps a tight lip about the man's identity. Regardless, Flavia shouts at her, insisting that she cooperate. Left without a choice, Lucretia reveals that her lover is a nobleman named Paolo Montesano de Forli. Upset, the abbess voices that she'll report her deviancy to the bishop, which will result in her facing public disgrace. However, Lucretia remains unfazed by her threats, emphasizing that since she's a relative of Cardinal Frangimani, she informs her that the man is very influential in the Pope's court, and that even notables have to surrender their privileges. Moreover, she abhors her situation, given that her parents coerced her into joining the convent. That day, Flavia holds a meeting wherein she criticizes Lucretia's act. She believes that the devil influences her conduct, so she orders the nuns to go to confession if they feel that there's temptation in their minds. Immediately, a few of the nuns rush out of the room to comply with her orders. Lucretia, who's now bearing shorter hair to renounce vanity, repents out loud in front of her sisters. The next day, Flavia unsheaths a sword from her cane and conducts a contraband search on one of the nuns' beds. There, she becomes infuriated after she discovers a pile of letters containing an intimate exchange between Sister Amandina and a man named Giuseppe. Inside a prayer room, Sister Veronica performs a yoga bear while she prays to God, seeking guidance from him to control her sinful desires. Meanwhile, in the library, Flavia interrogates Sister Amandina about Giuseppe's identity, but the nun clarifies that he's non-existent. She explains that she wrote Giuseppe's letters using her right hand, but the abbess is skeptical about it. Hence, she provides ink and paper for the nun to prove her claims. Though Amandina proves she's right, the abbess punishes her and orders her to repent since the letters contain inappropriate thoughts. Later, in the church, Amandina prays to Saint Giuseppe, who turns out to be the inspiration for her letters. That night, Paolo uses a sheet rope to climb into Lucretia's room to continue their affair sneakily. On the other hand, Sister Fiorenta requests another nun to paint her ideal man and wonders when she'll acquire her commission. The nun believes she can finish it on Saturday next week, much to Fiorenta's disappointment. To convince her to craft the artwork immediately, Fiorenta hands her a jar of honey. The following morning, Sister Martina's desire is awakened when she sees her lover, Silva, carrying a box of live chickens to the barn. This compels her to follow after him. At the barn, Silva makes love with Martina, unaware that Lucretia has discovered their affair. At the library, Clara encourages Lucretia to end her relationship with Paolo to preserve her honor. However, the nun refuses and remains proud that nothing can taint her. She explains to Clara that once she's smitten, she'll be like her, a woman who'll endure any trials in the name of love. Contrary to this, Clara is determined to remain loyal to her vows to God until her death. A few hours later, Flavia meets with Father Abbot to discuss his knowledge about Paolo Montesano. The priest reveals that Paolo's father, Giovanni, has left a will that grants him a large sum of money for his studies in the Americas. During the nuns' lunch, Flavia takes this opportunity to sneak into one of the nuns' bedrooms and search for more contraband. She's in disbelief when she locates the paintings of a man's physique that Fiorenta has commissioned. She proceeds to soak the artwork in water to destroy it, as such a subject is forbidden in their convent. After leaving the room, Flavia encounters Lucretia, and she informs her that Paolo won't visit her anymore because he has fled to America. She explains that he'll be staying there forever as it's on his father's will, which makes Lucretia feel betrayed. Just then, Flavia continues her inspection, and upon reaching Veronica's room, she catches her committing indecent acts. Therefore, she confiscates the contraband the nun owns, notably the mirror, as it promotes vanity. Because of this, Veronica is obligated to repent of her sins, but she refuses to surrender a full-view mirror she owns. As if of cue, the abbess returns, so the nun hides the mirror inside her wardrobe cabinet and begins to get dressed. Flavia searches for more contraband in her room, but since Veronica informs her that her sudden arrival disturbed her penance, she decides to leave. The next day, Father Abbot awakens from a knock, and when he asks the visitor about his identity, the man refuses to reveal it. Instead, he encourages the priest to open the door so he'll know who he is. The priest complies, and after opening the door, his nephew, Rodrigo, happily hugs him. Initially, the priest feels wary of him, for he looks far from the nephew he knows. For this reason, Rodrigo pulls his uncle near the window so that he can thoroughly scrutinize his face. When recognition hits him, Father Abbot smiles in delight at their unexpected reunion. Since Rodrigo has nowhere to stay, the priest promises to inform the abbess about his presence. He adds that he'll request her to allow Rodrigo to study in the library and pray in the convent. Later that day at the church, Rodrigo is praying when he sees Clara, and he immediately feels attraction toward her. That's why when Clara is about to start her prayer, Rodrigo requests her to unlock the door because he wants to be closer to her. Clara finds him unmannered, so she proceeds to walk out, unaware that Rodrigo starts to follow her. In the kitchen, Lucretia encourages Martina to spike the abbess's drink with an illicit substance. She explains that it will help their superior relax, but Martina refuses because she finds it dangerous. However, Lucretia insists on persuading her, so she reminds her of how Flavia torments them. Afterward, Lucretia consumes a small amount of the substance just to prove that it isn't dangerous, but the other nun remains firm in her decision. Left without a choice, Sister Lucretia reveals that she knows her affair with Silva. She believes that love shouldn't be considered a sin among them, and she expresses her sympathy for her because she can feel that she's suffering from hiding it. Eventually, Martina agrees to do it, so Lucretia hands her the vial containing the substance. As for the abbess, she discovers that Veronica is hiding the mirror, so she orders her to throw it out of the window. Following this, Veronica confesses to Father Abbot that the Holy Son visited her bedroom last night. However, she holds a grudge against Flavia because she believes she disturbed her time with him. Therefore, she deems the abbess as the devil, which the priest finds humorous. Right when the confessions are finished, the priest converses with Flavia, and he informs her of how the nuns perceive her as the devil incarnate. While the priest finds it funny, the abbess doesn't, but she merely plays along with him. At the library, Clara tries to find peace as she reads a book, but she suddenly hears a strange sound, making her uneasy. She approaches the cubicle and discovers that a person is hiding there, so she proceeds to confront him. Right away, Rodrigo reveals himself, causing Clara to run out of fear. The next day, Rodrigo continues to pursue Clara, and he proceeds to corner her at the church, trying to touch her with malice. He professes his love for her, but his actions repulse the nun, urging her to break free from his arms. On the other hand, Veronica caresses Mary's statue as she prays to her, but her intense emotions lead her to grip the thorny rose crown adorning the statue. This results in her receiving wounds on her palms, so she decides to wash them in the bathroom. However, when she's cleaning them, the bleeding won't stop, and Sister Amelia, who suddenly enters the bathroom, is concerned about her injury. Veronica believes that the wounds she has acquired are stigmata, which further sparks Amelia's concern. For this reason, the nun heads to the abbess's office to report the alleged miracle that Veronica has experienced. Flavia is intrigued by such information, so she orders Amelia to lead her to Veronica's location. Shortly after, at the altar, Flavia demands an explanation from Veronica, and the nun claims that the Lord has chosen her. She recounts that she touched Mary's face, and it resulted in her acquiring the stigmata. While the abbess is dealing with Veronica, the assistant Mother Superior proceeds to collect the rose crown, for she wants to add it to her collection. Not far from them, Martina heads to the bathroom and begins to pour all of the vial's content into Flavia's drink. Once she's finished, she sneaks inside the abbess's bedroom and leaves the tray of tea on her table. Speaking of the abbess, Amelia accompanies her to Mary's statue, and the pair discovers that there's indeed blood. Because the rose crown is missing, the abbess believes Veronica's claim. Sister Amelia is worried about the stigmata, because it is a warning of a deep, immediate change. The abbess acknowledges her thoughts, so she orders the nun to take Veronica to Father Abbot to confess it. That night, inside Clara's room, the nun, who's known for being a stickler for rules, dances bare in front of her mirror. Likewise, the other nuns in the convent commit cardinal sins by indulging themselves in hedonism and even gluttony. As the rest of the nuns are enjoying the night, Lucretia feels defeated by her lover's departure, so she contemplates consuming the poisonous substance. Later on, Clara leaves the convent and visits Rodrigo's lodging, for she desires him. That man is surprised by her sudden appearance, so he reminds her that it's considered a crime for a nun to leave the convent. Thus, he decides to take her back to her room despite her protests. Once they're in the hallway, the pair descends the stairs, but when Sister Clara learns that Rodrigo will depart their convent, the woman screams in displeasure. This changes his mind, motivating him to carry the woman outside to make love. Unbeknownst to them, Martina has witnessed their exchange since she was waiting for Silva's arrival. In Flavia's room, the nun awakens from her deep slumber and decides to drink the spiked tea. By morning, a dying abbess confides to Amelia that she thinks she was poisoned as revenge for her strictness. She reasons that she's just trying to protect the nuns from committing sins, and she shares that someone might have intruded into the convent. At that moment, Flavia passes away, compelling Amelia to inform the residents about her fate. Meanwhile, Silva and Martina are having an intimate moment, unaware that the substance has claimed the abbess' life. Moments later, the nuns become frantic after learning of the abbess's death, whereas Silva proceeds to escape the convent through the kitchen. Unfortunately for him, the civilians catch him leaving, leading them to swarm at him, for they think he's a thief and a killer. Just then, Clara enters her aunt's room, and she discovers that the tea is spiked, alarming her. On the other hand, Father Abbot accuses Veronica of opening the door, but the nun denies it. She insists that she doesn't know anything about the incident, but this only angers the priest. This time, he fiercely interrogates Martina about the person who opened the door, so the nun reveals Clara did it to let her lover in. Father Abbot is in disbelief, especially since he knows that the nun is obsessed with following the rules. Now, the priest wonders who her lover is, and Martina informs him that it's Rodrigo. At first, the priest refuses to believe her, so Martina shows him a button that belongs to Rodrigo. Angered, the priest orders the authorities to capture Martina as he's still in denial. Afterward, the priest visits Clara's room, and he becomes uncomfortable when he sees the nun in an immodest attire. He shares that Martina accuses her of allowing a man to enter the convent. Yet, he emphasizes that the nun will face the bishop, for he finds her a liar. Proudly, Clara admits that she indeed spent the night with her lover. However, she clarifies that the door is already open, which disappoints the priest. For him, she's their only hope, as they see her as the embodiment of virtue. Then, he asks for her lover's identity, and the nun reveals it's his nephew. Father Abbot believes that she's out of her mind, so he prays to God to heal her. Before leaving, he warns her that the bishop will arrive tomorrow and will determine her fate. The next day, when the bishop arrives at the convent, Father Abbot leads the authorities to Clara's room. To their surprise, they find her lifeless, and the priest discovers that she has consumed a poisoned meal. He's in shock at what has transpired, but suddenly, one of the soldiers calls him. He guides him into Martina's room, and there, he feels saddened that she also experienced the same fate as Clara. With a heavy heart, he believes that the perpetrator is living amongst them. Meanwhile, Lucretia decides to throw the substance into the sea so that she won't be deemed as the culprit. As if nothing has happened, Lucretia attends the abbess's funeral. In no time, the nuns become frantic when they learn that Clara and Martina have passed away. Because of this, Veronica rings the bell to alert the public. Once the soldiers carry the bodies outside, the mourning nuns rush to them, but the bishop angrily chases them away. He's afraid that this will bring a bad reputation to their convent, so he orders the soldiers to return the bodies inside. Back in the library, the bishop tries to awaken Clara and interrogates her about who might be the culprit who opened the convent's door. Sadly, the nun never gets the chance to reveal it, for she's already gone. Due to this, he instructs his associates that they forbid any visitation at the library. Following this, the bishop prevents Father Abbot from ringing the bell, explaining that disgrace will befall their convent once the public knows of the incident. Then, he heads to Veronica's location and chastises her for continuously ringing the bell. The nun, who's now possessing a disturbed state of mind, believes that the events were a product of the devil. Before she can cause more trouble, the authorities seize her, and the bishop is left in distress. Using the little hope he has, he prays to God that the incident that occurred in the convent shall remain within its walls.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.